Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host, Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So I've been away for a little while. I've been sick. My whole family, we've been sick. We've had the flu I'd say over a week now, and it started with my husband getting it, then my daughter, and then finally I ended up catching it. So it was a brutal, I would say, week or two with all of us getting sick, and what I thought is I'd share some of the recipes and remedies that we've been using over the course of the past 2 weeks to ease through some of the symptoms of either a cold or a flu, and also just to help kind of speed up the recovery. And so today I want to share my ultimate favorite healing chicken soup recipe. This is not only my favorite, but it's my daughter's favorite, and I'm sure you're gonna love it. And the beauty of it is it actually has some really nice spices in it that warm you up from the inside out, and it's definitely also a soup that your whole family can enjoy. So let's get started with that. So here's all the ingredients for the soup. You're gonna need a stock pot to be making the soup. And now I'll go through the ingredients and then we'll get everything started and prepared to actually put the soup together. The first thing you're going to need is a chicken. You're going to need an organic free-range chicken or a pasture-raised chicken. You are going to need fresh coriander greens, some celery, I would say two stalks of celery, potatoes, I would say maybe 2 medium to large potatoes, peeled, a yellow onion or white onion, some carrots. I would say these are very small little carrots. So I would say probably about 2 medium-sized carrots would be good, 1 zucchini, and for the spice, to give it a little bit of a kick, you're going to need lemongrass. I would say 1 or 2 stalks of lemongrass, and best to trim off any of the dry parts. Okay, so that's how you prepare the lemongrass. Then we would need a nice piece of ginger. I would say a piece of ginger, maybe half this size, which would be probably about 2 inches of ginger, or maybe about 5 centimeters of ginger. A nice chunk of ginger. And then we'll need about, I would say, 4 shallots, and garlic, maybe about 2 or 3 cloves of garlic, some bay leaves, 2 bay leaves, and you'll need some salt and pepper. I would say 2 teaspoons of Celtic sea salt or Himalayan salt, and I would say about half a teaspoon of peppercorns, either black or white. Here we're using white. Now, as an option, which will just give definitely a lot more heat to your soup, is to have some chili. I'm not actually going to put chili into this soup while I'm cooking it because my daughter actually drinks this soup, so no chili for her. So I put it in at the very end. But if you're making it for adults and you like some heat in your soup, which I normally do, add in some chili. And I would say 2 chilies, 2 bird's eye chilies would be plenty, or even 1 or maybe even half a chili pepper, up to you as to how much heat you desire. So how I like to start making the soup is the first step would be to actually put the chicken into the stock pot and then cover the chicken with water. I would say for this recipe, use about 3 quarts of water, which is 3 liters of water. And that's a first step always when I'm making a soup, is get it started, get it going. And then as I'm preparing and dicing up the vegetables, I would throw everything into the stock pot. Okay, so first step, put this chicken into the stock pot and add 3 quarts of water. And then put it on the stove and bring it to a boil. Okay, so the chicken is in the stock pot on the stove, and the water's now coming to a boil. And now we're going to prepare all the ingredients. Pretty much what we want to do is dice everything up. And so what I normally do when I'm making the soup is, as I'm dicing things up, I just throw it into the stock pot as it's starting to come to a boil. But because I'm making a demo video, I want to prepare all the ingredients first so you can see it, and then I'm going to put it into the pot. Okay? So here's the first round of vegetables. We've got the celery, 2 stalks of celery that have been diced up. Then we have 1 yellow onion that's also been diced up. You can use a white onion as well. And then here are 4 shallots that have been thinly sliced, and 4 cloves of garlic that has been minced, 2 teaspoons of Celtic sea salt, and I have here, I would say, this is half a teaspoon of white peppercorns that have been freshly ground, which came out to about 1/4 a teaspoon of ground
white peppercorns. So you can either use white or black. I like to use white in this soup, but black ones are perfectly fine to use as well. So let's go on to the next round of vegetables. What we're going to do though first is we're going to throw all this in the stock pot, and then I'm going to chop up the other vegetables. And then here we've got one zucchini that's also been diced up. And we have, I would say, 1 or 2 medium carrots here that have been diced up. And then 2 medium potatoes also diced up. And we're going to put this as well into the stock pot. And here's the last bit of ingredients. We've got some fresh coriander or cilantro. I would say 2 to 3 tablespoons is a great amount to add in. Then you also want about a 2-inch piece of fresh ginger root, or about 5 centimeters. Pretty much how I like to do it is I like to slice it into thick pieces, because you're going to take this out once the soup is finished being cooked, okay? And you don't want to mistakenly leave a big piece and have someone eat it. And so I find that if it's sliced up into large enough pieces, it's easy to find to take out at the end of the cooking the soup, and no one will mistakenly eat it. So, and also what I do is I always count how many pieces there are, so I know at the end to look out for 4 pieces of ginger root. Then you're going to need 2 bay leaves, and if you want to have fresh chili, chop it up into small little pieces. And this is about 2 fresh chili peppers. And then we've got the lemongrass, and I'm going to show you how to prepare it, because pretty much what we want to do is bruise the lemongrass and tie it into a knot, so that at the end when we finish making the soup we can take it out as well. All right, so I'm going to first put these ingredients in, and then I'm going to show you how to bruise the lemongrass and prepare it for the soup. So pretty much we want to bruise the lemongrass. Now, if you have a mortar and pestle, you can go ahead and use that to bruise lemongrass. But if you don't, and you don't have like a mallet or something to bruise it, to bang down on it, I suggest using your chef's knife and using the handle of it just to bang down on this to break up some of the fibers. So I'm going to show you how it's done. You'd pretty much be holding on to the top of the handle, so that you have a little bit of room here to be banging down on the lemongrass. And here you go, you would just hold it down with one hand and just hammer it with the other, just so you can break down some of the fibers of the lemongrass. Because this will help to break it up, to allow the flavor to come out. Okay? And then what I suggest doing is just putting it in a knot. This way too, it all stays together, and you just throw this in your stock pot so that when the soup is finished, it's easy to find, it's not all over the soup, and it's all good. So here we have our stock pot, and we've got pretty much the chicken, the vegetables, and the water. We've brought everything to a boil, and now we're going to reduce the heat down to low. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to put a cover on top of the pot, but you want to leave it slightly open to let some of that steam out. And we're going to leave it as is for a good hour and a half and let it cook. You can, in the beginning, have a little look, I'd say after maybe about half an hour of cooking, to see if there's any foam that comes to the surface. And if there is, just use one of these tools here to skim off any foam. And then you would just put the cover back on and just let it be. No need to be mixing anything up or anything. After an hour and a half, we're going to take the stock pot off the heat, and we're going to be removing all the meat off the bones, separating the two, and adding the meat back into the soup, which I'll show you. So the soup has been cooking for a good hour and a half, and I'm going to turn the heat off. And what I'm going to do now is remove the lid, put it aside, and I want to take the chicken out. I leave everything else in the soup and in the stock pot, but I want to remove the chicken so that I can separate the meat from the bones, because we don't need the bones, but we need the meat for the soup. So what you're going to do is just take any kind of kitchen utensil you can that you can safely take the chicken out, as I'm doing here. And I'm gonna just place it on this pan right over here. So what we want to do is just set the chicken aside for a good, I would say at least half an hour. Let it cool off, because what we want to do is by hand we want to remove the meat from the bones and discard the skin, and you don't want to do it while it's this hot. So just leave it aside, and for the time being what we're going to do now is let's remove the lemongrass from the stock pot. Okay, so here's that big chunk of lemongrass that we put in a knot. See, it's very easy to find, and we're going to put that aside. And also, we are going to take out some of that ginger. There was a few pieces, right? I see one right over here. Easy as well to remove. There's another. Here. And you also want to remove the 2 bay leaves. Very easy. Okay, so now we're going to prepare the chicken. Pretty much what you want to do is you want to have the stock pot close by, plus a bowl if you want to collect the bones and perhaps make another stock, a smaller stock, using these bones. I actually recook the bones from this chicken to make another smaller stock, and maybe perhaps just a plain stock that either I'll use for another soup or I might freeze. But I do believe you can reboil and make a new stock using these remaining bones. Okay, so, and what I want to do is first I want to remove the skin, okay, and I want to set that aside. I don't use the skin for the soup. I set that aside and I will discard it afterwards. So I'll remove the skin, and then I'm going to start taking off some of this meat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shred it up into smaller pieces, and I'm going to put these small pieces into the stock pot. Okay, and the stock pot is no longer overheat. Okay, the heat has been turned off. We're just pretty much putting the meat back into the soup. And this is what we're going to do for the entire chicken, is remove the meat and throw it into the soup. You can have big chunks of meat or small little shreds of meat, whatever you prefer, whatever kind of texture or consistency. Personally, I like a little mixture of the two. And as you can see, the meat, it like literally just falls off the bone pretty much. So here I've separated everything. I've put all the chicken meat into here, into the stock pot with the rest of the soup. And I put the bones here. Here are the remainder of sort of the carcass and bones. I'm going to put that with this, because this is what I will boil up and make another chicken stock with. And this is all the skin and little fat particles that I'm going to throw out. And then over here, I always like to do all this kind of separating in a pan so that I can collect any kind of leftover liquid, and I will pour that liquid back into the soup, okay, because that's good stuff as well. So once you put all the meat into the soup, you're just going to stir it up, and then you'll serve. And here's our delicious chicken vegetable soup with warming spices and a healthy boost.
And that is my ultimate favorite go-to soup for whenever I'm sick or someone's feeling like they're about to get sick. This is definitely a soup to make. And I want to also mention too that you can cook it for an hour and a half, or you can cook it for even longer. And I find the longer it's actually simmering, the richer the taste is. So many times I've made the soup where I've had the extra time to actually cook it for like a good 3 to 4 hours or even a bit longer, and it is even more delicious. So if you have the time, do leave it simmering as long as you can, because the soup just becomes richer and richer and richer. And as I mentioned too at the end of the video as well, that you can reuse the bones. I always make one more just plain chicken stock and maybe just a small one, reusing those bones that I used from the initial soup. I find that they're good for one more round. And I usually will probably store that chicken stock in my freezer for a later time to make another soup with. And just if you want to get the full recipe, go to my website at radiantcentral.com. click on blog, and you'll see it on today's blog post. The full recipe will be written out, there's photographs, everything. And over the course of the next few days, I'm going to share more recipes and more tips and different remedies you can use to start feeling better if you've got the cold or flu. And just to end off, I want to mention as well that the next 10-day juice fasting program, it starts this coming Tuesday, February 3rd. If you want to do a 10-day juice fast, I have to actually say wintertime is the most perfect time to be doing a juice fast because you get to hibernate at home. A lot of times people get worried about doing fasting in the middle of winter, but it's the time, I would say the time of year where you want to kind of get the extra rest, you want to be sort of staying at home and relaxing and taking it easy. But I find it's a great time to be doing a cleanse. So if you want to join us, it's a 10-day program. Everything's online, so you can join from anywhere around the world. And once you sign up, you get the full directions as to what to do for the juice fast, what to drink, how much, all of that. And then there's an online forum. You get to connect with everyone doing the juice fast with you. I'm on the forum every day offering additional support and answering questions. And there's 10 videos made specifically for the program. So every day there's a 20 to 40 minute video that walks you through everything you need to know about doing the juice fast and what to expect and everything. It's a very well-rounded, great program. It's super encouraging and motivating. It's great for someone that's never done a juice fast before, and also great for someone that's had many, many years of experience of doing juice fasts, and they want to do it as a group and they want to do something different and something fun. So definitely beginners and advanced juice fasters are certainly welcome. So if you want to join us, it starts next Tuesday, February 3rd. Go to my website at radiantcentral.com, click on juice fasting, and you can sign up there. Have a super fabulous day, everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.